We're about to dive into one of the most unsettling, tragic, and just plain baffling unsolved mysteries in American history. It's a case that, even decades later, really has no easy answers.
And hey, that's not me saying that. That's coming directly from the people who were investigating it. Right from the very beginning, law enforcement was just stumped. They were looking at a set of circumstances that defied any kind of logic.
You know, it all starts so simply. Just a night out for 5 friends, a short drive to a nearby town, and then they just vanish into a snowy wilderness, leaving behind this trail of questions that still haunts investigators today.
So to really understand this mystery, you first have to understand the men themselves. This wasn't just any regular night out for them. They had a huge day planned, and you could feel their excitement.
Now, each of these guys had their own unique quirks and vulnerabilities that make what happened next even more puzzling. And you gotta remember these details. Jack Madruga, for example, would never let anyone else drive his prized car. Bill Sterling absolutely despised the snow and the cold. And Jackie Hewitt? He had a genuine phobia of using the telephone. These little details are going to become absolutely crucial.
The next morning was supposed to be the big game. I mean, they had worked all season for this tournament. Ted Waher's mom had just washed his brand new sneakers for it. Their uniforms were all laid out on their beds, ready to go. This was, for them, their Super Bowl.
And this is where the ordinary just stops, and the truly bizarre begins. After watching a college game in a town called Chico, the men started their drive home. But they didn't get there. No, not even close.
Okay, so look at this timeline. They buy some snacks, they're seen heading in the right direction, and then just complete silence. 3 days later, their car shows up in a place it had absolutely no reason to be.
70. That is how many miles off course they were. 70 miles in the complete opposite direction, high up a winding, snowy mountain road in the middle of winter.
This is really the first central question of the entire case. Because they weren't stuck. They weren't out of gas. So why on earth would 5 men get out of a perfectly good car and just abandon it in a blizzard?
I mean, police hotwired the car and it started immediately. It had plenty of gas, and despite that treacherous road, the undercarriage didn't have any scrapes, which suggests a very careful or maybe a very knowledgeable driver. The keys were missing, but everything else pointed to a car that was simply, well, left behind.
And the mystery only deepens when 2 really strange witness reports pop up, which honestly just offered more confusion than clarity.
Okay, so get this. A guy named Joseph Shawns was literally having a heart attack in his own car, stuck on that same mountain road. Around 11:30 at night, he sees headlights pull up behind him. He sees a group of people. He even thought he saw a woman holding a baby. He cries out for help, and they just went quiet. The headlights clicked off. He called out again when he saw their flashlights moving around, and those lights instantly went out too. Why would they ignore a man who was begging for his life?
So, to add to all this confusion, a store owner in a nearby town was absolutely certain she saw 4 of the men 2 whole days after they vanished. She said they bought some snacks and drinks, and she reported that one of them, who matched Jackie Hewitt's description, spent a full 15 minutes on the payphone. Remember, this is the young man who is terrified of making phone calls. For months, there was nothing. The snow was just too deep. The trail went completely cold. Then in June, when the snow finally started to melt, the case took its most tragic and, honestly, most paradoxical turn. It had been over 3 months. A group of motorcyclists, they stumble upon a Forest Service trailer almost 20 miles from where the car was abandoned. They noticed the window was broken, and when they looked inside, they found a body. It was Ted Waher, and the evidence was just shocking. His long beard and how much weight he'd lost, it told investigators he didn't die that first night. No, he had been alive in that trailer for possibly 3 months, slowly, terribly starving to death. And this right here is the core paradox of this entire case. That trailer was a lifeline. It was stocked with a year's supply of canned food. It had a big propane tank hooked up to a heater. All they had to do was turn a valve for heat. They had everything they needed to survive, but for some reason, they didn't use it. Ted was found tucked into bed, and he was covered by 8 different sheets, all wrapped tightly around him. In his weakened, frostbitten state, investigators concluded there was no way he could have done that himself. Someone else was with him in his final moments. So who was that someone else? Well, that question leads directly to the final and most haunting piece of this whole puzzle: Gary Mathias.
Inside that trailer, investigators found Gary Mathias's tennis shoes, but Ted Waher's own leather shoes? They were gone. This shoe swap is the irrefutable proof Gary was there. He was alive in that trailer with Ted.
Over the next few days, the bodies of Bill, Jack, and Jackie were found out in the woods. They had died from the cold much, much earlier. But Gary? After leaving that trailer, he walked back out into the snow, and he just vanished. Not a bone, not a single shred of clothing has ever been found. And so we're left with these questions, and each one spawns a dozen different theories, but not one of them provides a satisfying answer. It's just a chain of inexplicable decisions that led to this terrible, tragic end. And maybe the most heartbreaking detail of this whole thing is this one. Back in their homes, their basketball uniforms were still laid out, just waiting for the big tournament. A silent testament to a totally normal day that somehow turned into an enduring and chilling American mystery.